Welcome. I wanted to walk you guys through an outline format that you could use for a research paper. If you're working on a research paper, a research project, this is just one outline format that you could use to collect all of your information and put it together in an organized way so that you can then follow through with the research process by collecting your information into one place, and then you'll use that for your rough draft, okay? So what I have for you here is just a really basic outline that I created. You're welcome to recreate this and use this on your own. And you'll see here at the top that we have the research question, okay? We're always going to start off with a research question. We never start with a thesis statement because we're following a methodology that is similar to the scientific method. So with that, you start off with a question and then you're researching around that. You're not starting off with the thesis statement because your thesis statement is actually your conclusion. The thesis statement comes from the research. The research will guide what your thesis statement is. Your research will tell you this should be the thesis. This is the conclusion. This is the information that came out of the research as opposed to the other way around. Okay? So you're always going to start off with that research question. And I put that here at the very top of the outline. That's going to guide your whole research process. And then under here, I put your thesis statement because that's going to be your most important sentence in your whole essay, in your whole research paper. Okay, so I wanted that to be on top, but know that as you're doing your research and you're collecting that information, you won't necessarily fill this line in with your thesis statement until the very end. Okay, you may have to come back around and do this one later. So we're going to start off with our research question here. We're going to go in and locate sources that we will use to attempt to answer this research question, okay? And as you know, while you're working through the research process, sometimes that research question is going to change. Sometimes it's going to become more narrow because you find when you start to do research that the original question that you asked is way too broad. And so you've got to hone that thing in, make it smaller, make it more narrow. You may also find that depending upon the size of the piece that you intend to write, you're going to have to change the way that that research question is stated. So for example, if you're doing a really small paper, like a 2 to 3 page article or something like this, you're going to have a really narrow research question. But if you're doing something really large, like a 20 or 25 page paper, you can have a broader research question because you can handle a lot of subtopics underneath of that research question, okay? So as you're moving through the research process, it is okay to alter that question so that you can fine tune it so that you can hone it down to the really specific topic that you're looking for so you can collect your correct amount of research, okay? All right, so scrolling right along, what I want to take you through here is your introduction paragraph, okay? There are a couple of different ways you can structure an introduction paragraph. I'll go through both of those with you. But as you're collecting your information, I would actually recommend that you fill in all of your body paragraphs first. I recommend writing the introduction last. And I know that might seem a little bit strange, like why would I write my introduction last? But I actually think that it follows the scientific method better because if you're starting off with your research question, you're doing all of your research, that's going to fill up your body paragraphs, right? Because all of that information that you find is supporting that thesis statement. That will then guide what the thesis statement is, and that will pinpoint the main broad general support that you have for that thesis statement. So I would recommend that you organize and write your introduction paragraph last. I've recommended that to a lot of writers, and I've heard positive feedback that that works for other people too. If you find it doesn't work for you, don't use it. But it's just a suggestion that I have, okay? In your introduction paragraph, you'll see up here I've got the word hook written twice, okay? What I recommend that you do when you're starting off with your introduction paragraph is that you start off with 1 to 2 hook statements. And the job of these hook statements is to hook your reader into your piece, right? Capture your reader's attention, pull your reader in. The way that you can do this is by starting off with a rhetorical question, starting off with an interesting statement or an interesting quotation. You can also start off with shocking data or statistics, okay? You can start off with a like a did you know kind of question. Those kinds of things tend to work out really well for a hook statement. And I think that one or two works really well at the beginning of an introduction paragraph, but I wouldn't go beyond that. If you have the idea of like, I'm going to do 5, I wouldn't do that. I think that it just gets to be too much and it gets your reader off track from the very beginning. And what we want to do is we want to capture that reader's attention, get them on track so that they're understanding our topic from the very beginning and that they're on board, that they want to continue reading our piece. Okay, so start off with those hook statements. Okay, again, rhetorical question, shocking statement, that sort of thing. Okay, shocking data or statistics, those are great for starting off with your hook statement. Then after that, I would recommend that you're doing somewhere in the range of 3 to 7 of these broad general support statements. Please don't yet give me the nitty-gritty details of the data and statistics that backs up your thesis statement. I don't want that yet. I want that in the body paragraphs. Up here in your introduction paragraph, I really want to see these broad support statements, okay? These broad support statements are going to directly relate to the body paragraphs you're going to have later on in your paper, alrighty? And all of these broad support statements, they are all going to support your thesis statement, okay? So broad general support statements don't yet give me the specific data and statistics. These statements are going to directly relate to the body paragraphs you're going to have later on in your paper, and all of them are going to support the thesis statement, okay? And then finally, we're going to wrap up this introduction paragraph with the thesis statement itself. I think that this method works out really well to finish off the introduction with a really strong thesis statement. Oftentimes when I'm talking to writers, I tell them that I want a thesis statement. When I read your piece, I want your thesis statement to jump off the page and punch me in the face. Like I want it to be this really, really strong sentence. I don't want it to be like kind of weak and watered down. Nobody wants that. We need a really strong statement, okay? Your thesis has got to be an arguable opinion. Okay, something, the kind of sentence that can start a fight, that can start an argument where people would say, no, that's not true. I don't agree with you. That's the kind of statement that you want to have at the beginning of your piece. Okay, and that's going to be your most important piece, your most important sentence throughout the entire piece that you're doing. Okay, regardless of whether that's an article, a research essay, a project, whatever that's going to look like, you still got to have that thesis statement in there. You want that to be a strong statement. You want it to be an arguable opinion. So introduction paragraph, one way of organizing this: hook statements, broad general support statements, wrap it up with your thesis statement. Another way to do this, and I've put this in this little note here at the bottom, is that an introduction paragraph can also be set up where you're starting off with your hook statements, then you go into your thesis statement, and then you have your broad general support statements. If you do it that way, you've got to finish up that paragraph with a conclusion statement, or else it just kind of ends in the middle and feels like it's incomplete. So if you choose to go this way, it's fine. I think that both formats in terms of introduction paragraphs can work really well. But if you choose to go this way, make sure that you wrap it up with a conclusion sentence. That conclusion sentence is going to have 2 jobs, okay? One job is that it is wrapping up this paragraph, and the next job that it's going to have is to transition the reader into the next paragraph, okay? Transition the reader into that next topic. All right? All right, let's go look at the outline itself and what your body paragraph should look like. Now on this outline that I've created, I have this body paragraph format kind of repeated over and over again. And you can move a couple of these things around a little bit. So we're going to start off with an introduction statement. This is your standard introduction sentence that's going to tell your reader, hey, this is what we're talking about in this paragraph. It's just this paragraph, okay? We're not talking about this whole section. It's just that paragraph, okay? Because we want to keep things really organized into those individual paragraphs so that each one of those makes sense on their own and then makes sense as part of that whole piece of your whole research paper, okay? So we're going to start off with that introduction statement. That introduction statement is going to directly relate back to your introduction paragraph where we had those broad general support statements. So when I said that's related to the body paragraphs, that's where that goes, okay? After that, you're going to have a research statement. What I mean by a research statement is that this is a statement that's going to come from some research that you conducted, Okay, maybe this is a quotation from a researcher where you found great information. You found this quote and you really want to use it. This is where it goes. Okay, so that research statement could be a quotation. It could be sharing out someone's data or statistics. It should be sharing out someone's conclusive findings. It could be paraphrasing information from a source that you found. Whatever that information is going to be, it goes there, okay, in the research statement. The next sentence is your detail statement. So your detail statement gives additional information. It gives more of a foundation for that research. So for example, if I give a research statement where I give 3 different statistics in that sentence, all having to do with elementary aged readers or something like this. On this detail statement, I may give more information that's related to that. Okay. Now that may be related to that same source. So for example, if I got this from a particular university research project, then in this detail statement, I might expand upon that, or I could get it from another one where those 2 sources are in alignment with the information that they have. And so I want to connect those 2. This is the place that you would do that. The next thing you have here is the analysis statement. Please don't make the assumption that your reader is going to come to the same conclusions and make the same analysis that you are. You're the one who did the research. You're the one who collected the data. You're the one who compiled all of this information from all of these different sources and put all of that information together. So analyze that information for your reader in an analysis sentence, an analysis statement, okay? So you're giving information from your research statement, okay? That's information that's coming directly from your source. You're expanding upon that in your detail statement, where you're giving additional information, maybe from that same source, maybe from a different source. Okay, that's an expansion statement there. And then you're analyzing, you're coming in and you're explaining, what does this mean? What are the implications to this? How is this connected to other topics or other subtopics that are related to your general topic and related to your research question? Okay. You'll notice here that I've repeated this twice. So you see research statement, detail statement, analysis statement, and then we do it again. Research statement, detail statement, analysis statement. So you may or may not end up needing to use all 6 of those sentences in one paragraph. Maybe you only need 3, or maybe you need to move those around in a different way. So maybe you need research statement, detail statement, maybe another detail statement, and then maybe you even need 2 analysis statements. That's fine. I would just recommend that you have at least one of each of those, research, detail, and analysis, in each of your body paragraphs, okay? Every body paragraph, we're going to end with a conclusion statement, okay? The conclusion statement, again, has the dual purpose. It has 2 jobs. It's going to wrap up the topic that we talked about in this paragraph here, and then it's going to transition us into the next paragraph. So it's going to move us through that piece, move us from one topic to the next topic, all righty? And again, if you need to move research, detail, analysis sentences around, you can definitely do that. You'll see here in this outline, I have the same thing here. We had body paragraph number 1. Here's body paragraph number 2. You'll see all the same kinds of sentences. Introduction, research, detail, analysis. Research, detail, analysis, conclusion. Okay, same thing all the way through. All right, we're just staying consistent. Again, as a writer, you may need to move those around in different ways depending upon your own needs. And again, please recreate this on your own computer so that you've got it readily available. Now, you're going to put in as many of those body paragraphs as, let me scroll back up. You're going to put in as many of these body paragraphs as you need to cover your topic and to fulfill the goals of your piece. So if one of the goals of your piece is that this paper needs to be a 9 to 10 page paper, okay, you need to do as many body paragraphs as are necessary to meet that 9 to 10 page requirement. Or if you've got a word count requirement or something to that effect, just make sure that you're putting in enough body paragraphs so you can fill that whole thing, because the body paragraphs are the majority of a research paper. All right, we're going to have more body paragraphs than anything else. Another thing I want to mention is that this is where your in-text citations are going to go, okay? And those are going to go in the research and detail statements at the ends of those. We're using MLA, when we're using MLA citation method, we do the last name of the writer and the page number, Okay. If you have a different situation of where you don't have their last name of a writer, you don't have a page number, go to your MLA book and look up those different situations, because those certainly do happen of where we have to use the title of the piece or something like that, or we don't have a page number because it's an online. So just go to the book and look up those individual cases of when those things happen so that you can know exactly how to operate with those situations. Okay. But in most cases, you're going to do last name of your author, page number. Okay. They go in parentheses and the period goes after the closed parentheses. Again, those are going to go into your research statement and your detail statement. They go at the end of the sentence. All righty? Okay. Conclusion paragraph. Let's talk about this. So your conclusion paragraph is pretty easy. You're going to start off by restating the thesis statement. Please don't just copy and paste your thesis statement. That's such a cheap thing to do. Don't do that. Okay, that's lazy. Instead, reword it. Take that idea behind your thesis statement, okay, behind that strong, arguable opinion, that statement that is so strong that it punches your reader right in the face. That's what you really want it to do. You want a really strong thesis. So take that idea of that statement and completely reword it anew. Okay, so you're really telling your reader the same thing, sure, but you're telling it in with different words in a different way, with a different tone, that sort of thing. And so it's making it more interesting. So you're leaving your reader with a strong viewpoint that, yes, you know what you're talking about. You've done quality research here. You want your reader to get that sense. And then here, you'll see that I stated 3 times, restate the broad general support. So you're going to take those broad general support statements that you had up above, up in your introduction paragraph. All of those had the purpose of supporting your thesis statement. What we're going to do with those is we're going to take those, and again, we're going to restate those. We're going to reword those. So we're not going to just copy and paste the same things and plunk them back down there in the conclusion statement. Let's not do that. That's messy writing. Instead, let's take the idea behind those sentences, the ideas behind what it is that you were trying to say there, and reword those things, okay? And put those then into your conclusion paragraph. And your conclusion paragraph with a strong conclusive statement. This again is basically going to come back and say, look, this thesis statement is right. Okay, so find a way for your particular topic, for your particular paper that really works as a way to say that. Alrighty? Your conclusion paragraph does not have to be particularly long. It doesn't necessarily have to be as long as your body paragraphs, which sometimes can be as long as about 2/3 of a page. I don't recommend a paragraph going beyond that, because then it just becomes overwhelming for your reader and ends up being too much content because it doesn't have enough white space on the page. Okay, so I'd recommend you keep your paragraphs under 2/3 of a paragraph, or sorry, 2/3 of a page. Sorry about that. Okay, so that's your conclusion paragraph. Next thing I have for you on the outline here is what information that you should collect on your sources. I recommend that as you're in that research process, so as you're collecting the research, as you're reading the data, as you're taking notes and so forth, that you're collecting all of the information around your sources. All right. The absolute minimum that you need to collect here is going to be your author. So whoever wrote this piece, the title of the piece, the publication, your date that was published, not the date that you got to it or the date that they uploaded it to the internet or anything like that. It's the date that they published it. The URL that's going to go directly to that piece, and the date accessed, that's the date that you read it. Now, this is really important. Your access date protects you, okay? It protects you and it protects your research. So you need to make sure that you're collecting that correctly. Let me explain why. If you read an article, and let's say that the article was published on a Tuesday, and you read the article on Wednesday, you read a pretty fresh article, right? It's only been out for a day and you just read it. Let's say that the writer of this article realized that they made 3 mistakes. So they go through and they take out 2 paragraphs and they upload 5 new paragraphs. That corrects the mistakes that they made. Let's say that that happens on Friday. Well, you didn't read that version. You read the Wednesday version, the version that has mistakes in it or differences or questions or something like this. But they went through and they made changes to it. Now let's say that with your essay that you're creating, that you upload this essay and it says this information came from the source. Someone reads your paper and they say, wait a second, that's not true. This information is wrong. Or I've read this article. I know this article didn't say that. Whatever it is that they're going to say, right? You are protecting yourself because you put in the access date. Okay, you are showing with that access date that you read that particular piece on Wednesday. And then if the article is updated at a later point, you then aren't responsible for going back over and over and over again to check on all of your sources, to verify that they haven't been changed, to verify that they haven't been updated, and so forth. Okay, so that access date is protecting you. Make sure that you collect that. That's really important. So what I did here on this outline is that I just collected the basic information that you need for all of your sources. For most of your sources, you're going to need additional information like section and page number and volume and all of that kind of stuff. But these are your basics. This will at least get you started and at least collect that basic information for you so that you can find your sources again. Alrighty. So author, title of the piece, publication, date that they published it, the URL that goes directly to it, and the date that you accessed it. And just on this outline here, what I did is I just repeated that over and over again so that someone who were to use this outline can then go in and fill that in over and over. Okay, so this is an outline that you could use for that research paper, for that research process, okay? So that you could organize all of your information into one place. And then you would use this outline as your guide for writing your rough draft, okay? And then you'd continue on through the research process of where you do your editing and your revising and completing that piece until it's ready to be shared with your peers, okay? Ready to be published. Alrighty, I hope that that information was really helpful to you, and good luck with your research and good luck with your writing. Thanks.